Dogworks Radio is sponsored by Alaska Dogworks. Check out their website at alaskadogworks.com. You can support this podcast on patreon.com/First Paw Media. From First Paw Media, sponsored by First Paw Coffee Company, this is the Dog Driver Show. Visit our website at dogworksradio.com. Now here are your hosts, Robert Forto and Kourosh Partow.
Hello and welcome everybody. This is Robert Forto and you're listening to the Dog Driver Podcast. And today we have a guest calling in from Finland. KP, who do we have?
We have one of the big 8-dog class champions actually online, Pasi Heinonen. Calling from Finland. He has an extremely competitive 8-dog team for years. He's been always in the top podiums, World Championships, European Championships, Finnish Championships. We've interviewed several 8-dog teams actually from Finland, and he is one of the top guys around the world from Finland. Pasi, welcome to the show, and tell our listeners who you are and what are you all about.
Well, first of all, thank you for getting this opportunity. Well, I'm 47-year-old, been mushing pretty much my whole life. My parents took their first dog when I was less than 1 year old and been racing pretty much every year after that.
So, Pasi, when did you start to have your own kennel and raise your own dogs?
Well, pretty much maybe 25 years ago.
And did you start with your own breeding or you purchased puppies or dogs from other kennels?
I haven't purchased that many dogs. Some, but I have used studs from other kennels and from Egileli, Egeingebrigtsen, and so on. There are some dogs I have purchased. The last one was, if I can remember right, treats from Reddington.
From Joey Reddington?
Yeah.
So you are basically mixing some of the American lines with some of the European and Scandinavian lines then?
Yeah. We also did buy frozen sim from Bill Conmiller's Auto. So we have used yellow Alaskan Huskies also with those hunt crosses.
Pasi, what I've noticed is in Finland, you, Rita, Ari, a lot of guys are mixing the Alaskan Husky back into the European hounds, Forster pointers. Is this a new trend in Scandinavia to mix our lines from here or the Alaskan Husky lines with the German Shorthair lines? And why do you think you guys are doing that?
I'm not sure if it's so new. Really, that's been there quite a long time, but I don't know about the others, but I think there was some qualities of on dogs that were not on so high level, those hound crosses, and then I wanted to boost those with Alaskan Huskies. They are, how do I say, maybe they have better talent to run in a team. They can handle lines better. They are also somewhat tougher. They are not so. Maybe they don't need that much maintenance as those hand crosses. So those were the reasons why I did use.
Alaskan Husky mixes. How many dogs do you have in your kennel right now?
Well, I have always had quite a small kennel. I have 9 dogs in training and then 5 young ones.
And you're mainly specialized in the 8-dog class, correct?
Yeah.
And
I have thought that this is the amount of dogs that I can easily handle, and also maybe a decade or so backwards, the competition in 8-dog class was really high, and I wanted to test my dogs on highest possible level, so that was the class where I was aiming and stuck there.
tell me about the dogs you have in your kennel right now, the race dogs. What is the bloodline behind them? Are they related? How old they are?
Well, they are all, as they are so small amount of dogs, they are quite closely related. You can find bloodlines from Egilellis and Hegingebritsen and, as I said, Reddington and Conmiller back there.
And what about their ages?
The youngest ones are doing their first season, and the oldest ones are on my racing team. They are coming 6 years.
6 years.
So, yeah.
And do you live close to a city, or you live, in a village far from people where you can have dogs? We had people from Germany, for example, telling us it was so difficult to have dogs because there are so many people. What about you?
Well, I live close to the rather big city called Tampere. We have only 15 minutes drive to the center of that town, so this is quite urban area. I can't keep so many dogs on this place, and also training is rather difficult. Now we have decent winter, and we can extend the training trails on the lake as it's pretty well frozen. But normally I have pretty poor training conditions here, so I have about quarter-mile training loop on our own property, where I do the most of the training, lots of power training, and then I have also a horse walker where I can train some endurance. So it's not that good.
Not that good.
Training.
Did I hear you said you have a quarter of a mile loop only?
Yeah.
That's it?
Yeah, that's it. About 400 meters.
You do have to do a lot of loops around this.
Yeah, but I do lots of power training.
Mm-hmm.
So with quite a heavy resistance and with very short intervals. So they are pulling really hard, and I take a break and repeat that again. So you don't need that long trails to do that. Maybe if I train for kart races on fall time, maybe 3 kilometers is the longest what I do on that way. Then I can go on weekends on our club's training trails. We have about 1.5 hour drive there, and then there I can do some faster runs with longer distances. But most of the job I do here on our own property. So it's lots of laps on horse walker and then those heavy power trainings on that short loop.
That is one of the most interesting Pasi training and environment conditions that I've ever heard of, especially for a big team, 8-dog class. I mean, usually if it was a ski joring, it would be different, but you're going long miles, and the dogs, they have to be really tough in their mind and, of course, be prepared to what you're training them for. Very impressive. So tell me about your international competitions and how you prepare yourself for world and European championships.
Well, earlier I haven't done much kart racing, but started to do that a couple of years back. But have mainly concentrated on winter racing, and I have done usually, even though I haven't raced on full time, I have trained them peaked first time at the moment when there are some national championships on full time, and then started that cycle again. So I normally start training on summertime, lots of that walking on horse walker and power training, and then I start extending distances, take those weekends off and go our club's training trails. After those kart races are over in October, November, then I start the cycle again, put them on horse walker and start that power training again. And when the snow comes here in southern Finland, it's often late December or somewhere around New Year. Then I can start extending those distances when their feet can handle the conditions. So at the moment we are doing mainly 2-3 kilometer intervals, and the total distance is somewhere between 15 and 22 kilometers, what I'm doing at the moment. And I try to keep rather high speed now. So even though I have rather short distances and heavy load on that power training, they don't lose that much of their speed as those intervals are so short. It's rather explosive what they are doing, how their movements are, so they don't lose that much of their speed. So it's rather easy for them to.
What is the distance you're going to be running for the World Championship in Sweden?
Sorry, can you repeat?
What is the distance you're going to be running? The distance for the World Championship in 8-dog class?
In what they have informed, it's 17.5 kilometers. So what's that? A bit over 10 miles.
10 miles, yeah. Approximately 10 miles.
A bit over, yeah.
So you train less than 10 miles to go to the World Championship, or you train more to prepare yourself?
Both. It depends on what I'm training. As I said, I have lots of variation on training. There's really short trail runs when I train pure speed or that power, and then if I'm training that endurance, then I extend the distances, and at the moment the longest training runs have been about 22 kilometers.
Okay.
So there's some tolerance.
With sled?
If the weather gets tough, they should be able to.
Yeah. Are you doing it with sled or with ATV, Pasi?
Well, both. I have trained quite a few times with sled. Not that many. Mainly as I said, the snow comes rather late here So I do lots of training on ATV, and then after that I switched to the snowmobile, and only a few times with sled. So far, maybe, I don't know, 5 times this season.
Oh, that's it. Okay.
Yeah, and it depends. A couple of years back, when they had European Championships on that same racing area in Sweden, then dogs were first time in front of sled when I went to that race, as we had very poor conditions here, only ice before that.
So,
It was,
Pasi, I myself used to race a lot of 8-dog and 10-dog class for years and years.
Yes.
What is the perfect size of a dog for you for this 8-dog class?
well, early I thought I didn't want to see very big dogs, but I must say I have changed my opinion a bit, as the size of the dogs it has grown a lot what it was maybe 10-15 years ago, and earlier I thought those larger dogs had problems with the endurance, but now I have seen that they can manage the distance. So I don't know what's the optimal size. Only thing is that the size has grown a lot during last decade here.
So you're seeing the dogs being bigger and more taller and longer and heavier, huh?
Well, I don't know how heavy the dogs of my competitors are, but they look much bigger than what they used to be about a decade ago.
That's pretty interesting.
Are still rather small. I should maybe an average weighs somewhere between 22, 23 keys. So I don't have that large dogs, but I've seen that also rather big dogs can do the distances nowadays.
What is the average weight of your dogs right now?
Yeah, it's somewhere between 22, 23 keys.
Okay, so not very big.
No. As I said, my dogs are still rather small.
Okay.
I have only 2 males on my team. Rest are females. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that's interesting because in Alaska, same thing. We do not have a lot of large dogs in larger classes. My dogs when I ran, they were all in the 22, 20, 24. That was it, kilos. And it's very interesting what you're saying, the size. Tell me about your nutrition. How do you feed your dogs?
Well, I feed quite a lot fresh meat. If I say some percentage in whey, about 6 is fresh meat, and then rest is kibble, dry food. And it changes somewhat during the season. When I do lots of that LSD training on horse walker, then the fat amount is the highest, as I try to train them be as effective using fat for the main energy source. And then when the races are closing, then I slowly come into a bit lower values of fat. I try to keep protein value rather high so that I can avoid those soft tissue injuries. I want to see values of over 35% on dry stuff for protein.
A lot of protein.
So, yeah, earlier I did use some extra vitamins and so on. Nowadays, not that much. Maybe some recovery drinks just before the races. I test them, but on the training season, not that often. Other ingredients, some astaxanthin, but nothing else.
Very good. Pasi, I don't have any questions for you. I'm just really intrigued about the short distance that you train on every day. As KP said, I don't think anybody has ever told us a story like that. I think that's one of the fun things about doing a show like this is we hear so much different information from people around the world and how they do things. KP, I'm good with Pasi. What do you have?
No, Pasi, wanted to thank you for spending the last 25 minutes with us. A lot of respect. The way that you are training is very hard, what you're doing and where you are doing it. I'm very, very impressed. Good luck with you with the rest of your season, with the championships coming ahead of you. And I hope to see you in Alaska sooner or later.
Yeah, maybe someday.
Very good.
Thank you. On behalf of my guest today, or our guest today, and my co-host, this is Robert Forto for the Dog Driver Show. We will see you guys next time. Goodbye.
From First Paw Media, this is the Dog Driver Show. We hope you enjoyed this podcast, and we invite you to subscribe in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. You'll find a link on the episode notes. You can tap or swipe on the episode cover art, and you can see some offers from our sponsors. You can support our show by supporting them. If you like what you have heard, we would love it if you could give us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe too. Your hosts are Robert Forto and Kourosh Partow. Our producer is Robert Forto and created for First Paw Media.